I'm Trevor Stanley. I'm an engaged customer and I'm chair of the My Impact Group.
I'm Glenn Harris. I'm Chief Executive of Midland Heart. And today, Trevor and I are going to talk about our new corporate plan, Tenants at Heart. So, good afternoon, Trevor.
Good afternoon, Glenn. To start with, can you explain to us what the corporate plan is and what its main aims?
Okay, yeah. So really what we've tried to do with Tenants at Heart is that we are trying to make sure that our tenants are front and central throughout that plan. And that's really doubling down on our mission, which is quality, affordable homes across the Midlands. But what we've tried to incorporate in this plan is the listening, the feedback that we've had from the team led by yourself, to make sure that we are listening, that the services that you require are front and central. And that predominantly was about making sure that our existing homes are at the forefront. So do we invest in our existing homes? Yes, we want to build new homes, making sure that we put that investment in our existing homes, make sure they're energy efficient, make sure that we deal with issues like the fact that a lot of our properties are old, 100 years old, so they need that modernisation so they can probably last another 100 years. We've listened very carefully and we know that the repairs service is really important, really efficient, good repairs service. And we also know that the way we deliver our services, communication is often, when we get it wrong, we know that the communication is sometimes the area where we can improve. And on top of that, can we make sure that we've got a more local flavour so people know what's going on not just in their home but in their neighbourhood. So we try to reflect all that in Tenants at Heart. So obviously, Trevor, you were pretty much involved in that when we were formulating this and discussions with the board. What's your take on where we've got to with this new plan?
I think the first thing is the fact that I've been a tenant since 1980 and whatever corporate plan has come along, it was given to us rather than being asked to take part. So when we got the call from the board saying, we want you to develop the plan, tell us what you would like in it. And then the work we did in terms of with the tenant scrutiny officers to get the team to work and do all the work we did, it's amazing. I've actually referred to it in terms of my father read about men going to the moon in '69. It happened. We have been for a long time been discussing how tenants can get more involved. And to me, the cosmic change is as big as that walking on the moon. And I think tenants will benefit from the plan in terms of the modernisation, including tenants, listening to tenants. It's going to make, or should make, tenants' lives a lot better. So, Glenn, what is the aim that you want to get out of the corporate plan?
Well, I think that the process you explained, so it's really great to hear that, is that we felt for some time that we knew what the key issues were that impacted our tenants and what they wanted, but that's very different from actually hearing it firsthand. And so you can hear, but you're not necessarily listening. And I think this time, the fact that you engaged with the board, obviously there was 14,000 surveys. I think we had 650 individual sessions, 1,500 tenants directly we heard from. So an awful lot went into that. The sessions with the board, as you rightly said. So I think the issue here is that it from top to bottom, so from the board through the executive to our colleagues that are on the front line, delivering services in people's homes, we want to make sure that it is understood and it is embedded that the tenant is at the centre of all that we do. So yes, that's not just about repairs are important, communication is important, but it's that we listen. Every interaction, people listen and try and take ownership of it and try and give the very best service. So that's really what I think we've tried to get out of it, and we have massively benefited because although the things that we talked about, that you talked about, modernisation, energy efficiency, all of the things that we heard from tenants, in many ways, they're not new things that we haven't heard before. But when you hear it directly and you hear examples of how it's impacted people, both positively when we get it right and how much that means to people, but also if we don't get it right, the consequences of that. I think that does mean a lot more. It resonates more. And our hope and aim certainly is that you will see that followed through the life of the plan in the next 5 years. So, I guess my question back to you, Trevor, is from your perspective, how did it feel? What was the process like, for you and colleagues that were going through that as involved tenants? How was that going through that process?
I think the first initial that was the shock that we was being asked to do the work. So you talked about all the surveys and everything. So it wasn't a small group of tenants making the decision. We looked at the trends, the ideas, and then the process we went through was brilliant, because we were actually getting what we thought was going on in the background, but we needed tenants to tell us how they felt. So when we went to the board, we could say, it's not me, it's not Joe or Sarah, this is coming from your tenants, and this is what they're looking for in terms of good homes, modern living, and as you know, I've been part of the going and seeing the modernisations, seeing more sockets, and I lived in the property I went and visited. I lived in a similar one, terraced, narrow stairs. But as I went up the stairs to go and have a look what was going on, the first thing I spotted was an electrical socket at the top of the stairs. Wasn't there before. So you've got electric cables all over the place, so you could just do it upstairs. So the advantages of the modernisation is absolutely superb. The process that we went through, not only did the board and the exec gain lessons from what was being said, so did we as tenants who are active, who challenge Midland Art at every opportunity we can get, properly, not just throwing a grenade, but doing it properly. The whole process, I think I'm proud of the tenants who took part, because in the past surveys have been very, hit and miss, but this one was, they actually told us what they wanted us to tell you.
Yeah, no, it's really good to hear. But of course, one of the things we hope, in addition to get to that, is because it was a good process, because iterative, wasn't it? You came back to us and we came back again and came back, so we were building on it together and getting some common ground and taking it forward. And one of the things that we also hope this drives is that we can see that tenant engagement get even more expanded. Because to have tenants interpreting the views of other tenants, that is really quite powerful, as you've explained. So if we can sort of expand that tenant engagement and get that breadth, if you like, then I think that will not only set us up for the things that we want to achieve in the next 5 years, but I also think it will put us in a really good position for any other challenges that come along or new things that we want to develop as Midland Heart goes beyond that. And I think making this change that we've both talked about, I hope people look back and say, look, that was a pivotal moment.
I believe it will be. It started as one, because, as I said earlier, tenants were never involved with corporate plans. We weren't asked our opinion of what the corporate plan should provide. This time, tenants' voice has been heard from start to finish, and has actually formulated each of those, was it 5 areas within the corporate plan? Those 5 pillars has been driven by tenants telling Midland Heart, this is what we want, and it's been listened to, which is another innovation.
Yes. It's hard to think of listening as innovations, but it nonetheless is.
Can I just ask, Glenn, tenants will obviously take it on board and work with the corporate plan. How are we going to monitor how the colleagues feel about it and how they're going to implement the changes?
It's a good question, Trevor, and it's really important, because obviously, the success or failure of any plan is entirely down to the colleagues that work for us, embracing it and doing it. So I think there's a couple of things. One is, as we went through the process with yourselves, we were doing a similar thing alongside that with all our colleagues. So they were engaged at quite an early stage, having an input from what what they were telling us was sometimes a challenge to enable them to deliver the service, whether that's the system not helping them or some of the policies we've got. So we've done quite a lot of that. So I think there's a lot of initial buy-in to where we've got to. But essentially what it boils down to is that we've got to spend as much time giving the confidence and support to our colleagues to make sure they're comfortable making that change from where we are now, which I think is a decent performing organisation, to where we want to be, which is the aim at Tenants at Heart. And I think what we've agreed with yourself as the leader of the My Impact Group is that the board and that tenant group will meet at least once a year annually and discuss progress to date. So that's an opportunity for the board and tenants to say, this is working well, we're on track, positive verification, or actually we need to make a bit of a change here or a tweak, or we need to focus on this. And I think having that mechanism, not just we've produced a plan, which I think was a good process, but also we're going to have an ongoing dialogue that we jointly look at and review, and we jointly have a say about, how's it going? So that's how we hope to make sure that gets embedded.
Thanks, Clay.
On behalf of the board, my colleagues, first of all, for you that led that process, I want to say thank you very much, Trevor, because it did mean a lot to us, and you embraced it in the right way, challenging, but also in a way that wanted the best for the organisation, the best for the tenants. So it was done in a really, really good way, and we enjoyed it actually. Although it was challenging, it was enjoyable in it, and which was good. So thank you for you and your colleagues that did that, and hopefully we'll stay engaged throughout because we know we've got regular catch-ups with the board. So huge thank you, and thank you for listening.